A colleague reminded me recently of a quote from Zora Neale Hurston's novel, Their Eyes Were Watching God, that seems particularly resonant with this time of year. Hurston writes, "There are years that ask questions, and there are years that answer." What has 2014 been to you? A year of questions, a year of answers, or somewhere in between? From a different perspective, the online magazine Slate spent the past year tracking what various people and various groups were outraged about every single day of 2014. Has anybody seen the outrage tracker? It's every single day of 2014, they've got what people were outraged about. And if you follow the news regularly, it's probably not surprising to hear that there's a lot of umbrage taking in our culture. But it's nonetheless stunning to see every single day of 2014 connected to a story about which one or more groups were incensed. And a fair percentage of those stories would be what pundits call fake outrage. That's exaggerated anger, exploiting someone's misstatements to score partisan political points. I'm sure none of you have ever seen that happen. So what does 2015 hold in store for you? Do you expect it to be a year of questions? A year of answers? Are you setting yourself up for a year of outrage? You can likely think of other overarching themes in your life that may resonate with what is going on with your particular situation. But for this morning, I'd like to invite you to consider one other way that you could intentionally choose to be a way of being in the world that you could intentionally choose for 2015 and beyond. What would it be like to try your best to make 2015 a year of well-being? A year of well-being. As the Buddhist monk Bhante Sujatha invited us to consider and experiment with in November, what would it mean for you to regularly set an intention in 2015 for yourself based on the Buddhist loving kindness meditation, what's known as metta meditation, M-E-T-T-A. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be well. To set that intention for yourself regularly in 2015. And then to extend that regularly to those around you. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. And then to extend that to all beings. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be peaceful and at ease. Now, there's truth in the bumper sticker adage that if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. But how might your relationship to other people and to yourself change in this next year if you invested equally as much time and energy in cultivating well-being as many do in stoking outrage? Along these lines, I heard an interesting interview with Arianna Huffington, who's the founder of Huffington Post, the online media site, about her motivation behind writing her new book titled Thrive. Her wake-up call came in 2007 when she collapsed from exhaustion, hitting her head on the corner of her desk, cutting her eye and breaking her cheekbone in the process. It was a pretty wide-eyed wake-up call. After extensive medical tests, it turned out the only thing wrong with her was profound sleep deprivation. She had founded the Huffington Post 2 years earlier in 2005, and to keep up with the explosive growth, she had been working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for almost 2 years. Outwardly, she seemed like the ideal of success. She had been chosen by Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in the world. In terms of money and power, she was successful. But she writes that she was not living a successful life by any sane definition of success. And that term wake-up call is deeply resonant with Buddhism. The word Buddha is not, just like Christ isn't Jesus' last name, the Buddha was not the name that the Buddha was given at birth. His name was Siddhartha Gautama. The Buddha is a title. It means awakened one. Christ means Messiah. Mahatma, it's Mohandas Gandhi. Mahatma means great one. These are titles that they eventually become people's names. But the Buddha is a title that means awakened one and was given to that prince turned spiritual teacher, Siddhartha Gautama. For the historical Buddha, his wake-up call came from when he, as a prince, he wandered for the first time outside of the protected walled garden of the palace in which he had been born, and for the first time encountered poverty, sickness, and death. That was his wake-up call. And he began to see that he needed to live a very different sort of life. Like Huffington, the historical Buddha in his childhood seemed to have it all from the perspective of money and comfort and power. But he came to see that there is much more to living the good life than money and power alone. Money and power are important if we're going to change the world. But if we're going to truly thrive and flourish as human beings, we must take into account not only the bottom line of profit. Profit's important. Profit motive is a real thing. But there's also what some commentators call the triple bottom line: people, planet, and profit. That we need to have all three of those aligned and in balance if we're going to truly thrive and flourish as human beings and as a species. For Huffington, in addition to money and power as measures of success she has in the years since her wake-up call when she collapsed from sheer exhaustion, she's identified a handful of what she calls third metrics. So in addition to money and power, she's identified these third metrics that have served as touchstones for her as she studied people who really were thriving and flourishing and not burned out and exhausted after 2 years. We have to set ourselves up. Most of us have careers that last a lot longer than 2 years. For Huffington, these third metrics are well-being, wonder, wisdom, and giving. Well-being, wonder, wisdom, and giving. For this morning, so we're not here all day, I'm going to concentrate primarily on that first one of well-being. And in consulting with experts, Huffington has identified 3 steps that anyone can begin experimenting with immediately to increase well-being. The first, as you can guess from her wake-up call story, is to get more sleep, rest, either one, you choose. That can include going to bed earlier or taking a short nap in the early afternoon if your schedule and job situation allows for a brief siesta, for on-the-job napping. I actually have friends who keep yoga mats in their office that they use to catch a 20-minute power nap. They lock the doors, they hold my calls, and lay down for 20 minutes. And who's a power napper out there? We got any power nappers? All right. Maybe no one's admitting to it. All right. Maybe you just start nodding off in the middle of the afternoon, and that's your sign that you may need a power nap. And because many of us have less control over our first meeting in the day than when we go to bed, for going to bed earlier, Huffington recommends starting with setting an alarm, not to remind yourself to get up, but to remind yourself to go to bed. Even 30 minutes earlier, and then if you can, work back from there. And that ideally what the experts say is if you're not waking up before your alarm feeling rested, you are not getting enough sleep. And here's a pro tip. If you set that reminder alarm to go to bed earlier, if you actually set that on your bedside table, then when you get up and turn off the alarm, that at least gets you in the right room at the right time, whether you actually then go to bed or not. Personally, I stay busy pretty much most of the time, but one of my priorities has always been getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. And that doesn't always happen, but I really try to and do most of the time. I also try to take a 20-minute power nap when I can, when my schedule allows. When I was a associate minister, I made some serious use of the couch in the youth room. That's where I used to take naps in Louisiana. As Michael Rosen, the chief wellness officer at the Cleveland Clinic, puts it, sleep is the most underrated health habit. There's practically no element of our lives that is not improved by adequate sleep, and there is no element of life that is not diminished by inadequate sleep. Our creativity, our ingenuity, our confidence, our leadership, our decision-making can all be enhanced simply by getting, for most of us, 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. It varies a little bit. Doctors at Harvard Medical School's Division of Sleep Medicine add that sleep deprivation negatively impacts our mood, our ability to focus, and our ability to access high-level cognitive functions. The combination of these factors is what is generally referred to as mental performance, and your mental performance is either enhanced or diminished by the amount of sleep you get. Huffington's personal experience and research have led her to become a self-described sleep evangelist. And after getting more sleep, her second step is to get more exercise. Now, we all know that one, right? And again, she says, start simple if you need to. Just take the steps instead of the elevator, the old trick. Add a walk in the morning or right after lunch or in the evening and build up from there. Exercise, as study after study shows, is not only good for our long-term health, it's a huge stress reliever, and it also helps us sleep better, right? When you exercise, you tend to be able to sleep harder and to go to sleep faster. Her third and final step is to meditate. Start with just 5 minutes and build up to 20 to 30 minutes if you can. The real clincher is if you could do 20 to 30 minutes twice a day. But start with just 5 minutes, or try to introduce some contemplative silence. And if you don't even have 5 minutes, or you just can't get yourself into a chair or a meditation cushion for 5 minutes to sit still, start with just introduce some contemplative silence into another part of your day. So that could look like taking a walk or doing some exercise without having earbuds in your ear. It could look like walking the dog without earbuds in your ear. It could look like just turning off the radio in your car on your commute and having some silence there to decompress. That can be your gateway drug into meditation. You may also be interested in visiting our UU Buddhist group. So, y'all are here early already, so y'all are obviously early birds, at least in some sense. They meet in the chapel on 2nd and 4th Sundays. You can stay afterward after this group, or I think they actually, on 2nd and 4th Sundays, start at 9:30, and they have some meditation, and then you can go to the discussion. There's also some free beginner's guides to meditation that are just a few pages long. So if you go to our website, click on Connect, and then Spiritual Group and the Buddhist Group, and go to our UU Buddhist Group homepage. There's a number of different free, simple guides to meditate. And I also appreciate, though, that meditation is Huffington's third step. Over the years, when people have come to my office asking for advice about meditation, easily the number one common problem that people say is they're like, I tried to meditate and I keep falling asleep. So my response is always, your body is telling you that you don't need to meditate. Your body is telling you you need to get more sleep. So adequate rest is step one. Exercise is often an intermediate step. The Buddhists call it monkey mind when you first try to meditate. And exercise can be a really profound way of getting out of your monkey mind and into your body, whether that's running or walking or yoga. That often before you need to just sit down and start meditating, exercise and sleep are important groundwork. So if you reprioritize sleeping and exercise, even 30 minutes a day more of each of those, you'll have a much more solid foundation if you really want to experiment with meditation as a vehicle for well-being in 2015. For the technologically inclined, there actually are a few meditation and mindfulness apps that are pretty high quality. One is called Buddhify, one is called Headspace, and one is called the Insight Timer. I'll link to these on the manuscript version of this sermon that I'll put on our website. If you're at a computer most of the day, Huffington also recommends a website that I hadn't heard of previously called DoNothingFor2Minutes.com. And that's the number 2. No, DoNothingFor2Minutes.com, sorry. It's simply a full-screen video of waves crashing at sunset, with a timer counting down with 2 minutes, along with the instructions, just relax, look at the waves, and don't touch your mouse and keyboard for 2 minutes. And if you do touch your mouse and keyboard before 2 minutes is up, a giant fail appears on the screen. Perhaps not the most zen reminder to go back and try that 2 minutes again, but it is effective nonetheless. Personally, looking back over the past few years, I do fairly well most of the time, not every single day, but most of the time with getting enough sleep and exercise and meditating at least a little. One major hindrance, though, for my well-being, and you'll have to think about what is the major hindrance for your well-being, the one that stands particularly out to me is that my past 3 summers have all been hijacked by various reasons. One was moving here to meet all you lovely people. And then I had a requirement that the UUA made me do, and then I was studying for the Ministerial Fellowship Committee. So really, my past 3 summers have really been hijacked, and that's something that I really want to change in 2015, and that I'll share with you a little bit. I have a few sermons planned this summer where I'll check in with you about how that's doing, as well as how your summer is going as far as cultivating well-being and some best practices around that. But with 2015 stretched out before us and summer still quite a few months away, I invite you to consider, can you go ahead and block off? And if you are allotted vacation time, right now, this next week, this afternoon, could you go ahead and block off any vacation time to make sure that you take it? It's stunning, the studies that show the number of Americans that just don't take their vacation time. So, or which of Huffington's 3 steps really most calls to you at the beginning of this new year? Is it sleep? Is it exercise? Is it meditation? Or what next step do you know that you need to take? Just one concrete step each day or each week that would really enhance your well-being and to make 2015 a year of more well-being. For now, I'll move toward my conclusion with this poem from Anne Hillman titled, "We Look with Uncertainty." She writes, "We look with uncertainty beyond the old choices for clear-cut answers to a softer, more permeable aliveness, which is every moment at the brink of death." And that really is the truth for us, every moment at the brink of death. For something new is being born in us if we will let it. We stand at a new doorway awaiting that which comes, daring to be human creatures, vulnerable to the beauty of existence, learning to love. In reflecting on this poem, the spiritual teacher, Parker Palmer, writes about 5 questions that have emerged with him as he's read this poem over and over and reflected on it. Questions that the poem has evoked in him. Which of these questions most resonates with you here at the top of a new year? Parker writes, "How can I let go of my need for fixed answers in favor of aliveness? What is my next challenge in daring to be not perfect, but human? How can I open myself to the beauty of nature and of human nature? Who or what do I need to learn to love next and next and next? And finally, what is the new creation that wants to be born in and through me?" I'll read these one more time. Don't try to take on all 5 of these at once. That's another mistake I think we make at the beginning of New Year's. We try to take on 20 new resolutions, right? So which one of these might hold something that might unlock a way of being in the world for you that's more characterized by well-being? How can I let go of my need for fixed answers in favor of aliveness? What is my next challenge in daring not to be perfect, but to be human? How can I open myself to the beauty of nature and of human nature? And who or what do I need to learn to love next and next and next? And finally, what is the new creation that is trying to be born in and through me? In that spirit of open reflection, as we continue to consider what it might mean to experiment in 2015 with making it a year of well-being, I invite you to consider 2 different ritual responses that are part of a tradition in Unitarian Universalism known as fire communion. At the front of the sanctuary, there are tables with pencils and paper and votive candles. Looking back on 2014, is there something, a person, a place, a thing that has been a hindrance to your well-being? That's something that you might feel called to say no to let go of, or to begin saying no to, or to begin letting go of this morning. If so, in a few moments, I invite you to come forward and write a word or a phrase, or you could do a little drawing that represents that thing that you want to begin letting go of, because it is a hindrance to your well-being. A person, place, a thing. And then I'll invite you to light that slip of paper on fire. You can toss it toward the center. There's water in there. And now that gesture, I think sometimes we can make more rituals than they are. I don't mean by any means to say, just because you write it on a slip of paper and burn it up doesn't mean that you have let go of it. But it's a way of setting an intention. It's a way of beginning to let go. As some spiritual teachers say, when you say, "I forgive you," what you can actually say is, "I forgive you as much as I can right now. To the best of my ability, I'm working on it." So let go as much as you can right now of whatever has been a hindrance to you. I also invite you to, so the second thing is to light a votive candle to set an intention. What do you want to say yes to in 2015 that could be more well-being? More sleep, meditation, exercise, vacation time, whatever that is for you. I guess a few words about logistics. I will take this candle lit from our chalice, and you'll notice that I'm